Hi, I'm Haley Perot, and this is Northwest NEWSWEEK. Equinox Gold held the official opening of Greenstone Gold Mine on Thursday. Hundreds of people were invited from the surrounding communities to celebrate the opening of the $1.4 billion gold mine. Justin Hardy was there and has this report.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Whoa!
The grand opening was a 2-day-long celebration both for the mine and the entire Greenstone area. Guests were given the chance to learn all about what the mine does and got up close and personal with some of the massive machines used in the mine's day-to-day operations. Attendees were also able to pose with a gold brick poured at the mine earlier this year that's worth roughly $3 million. Gordon Campbell, a former British Columbia premier and one of the directors of Equinox Gold, says the big celebration seemed fitting for a project that had such a long road to get to this point.
I remember being here for the groundbreaking. It was a freezing cold day in the groundbreaking, but we got the ground broken. And what really strikes me today is thousands of people had to come together and work together cooperatively, constructively, looking for solutions when there were problems to bring forward something that, Greenstone Mine, which will be a phenomenal economic asset, social asset. We intend to be great citizens and participants in the communities.
Leading up to the ribbon cutting, the crowd was addressed by the leaders of the local municipality and First Nations, as well as Thunder Bay Superior North MP Patty Haidu and Ontario's Minister of Mines George Peary. The community was also greeted and congratulated virtually by the other mines owned by Equinox Gold. The mine also gave the community the chance to say goodbye to someone who has worked closely with Greenstone since the early days of the mine project 12 years ago, Eric Lemontang.
This unconditional support was so great and love. Thank you all.
Greenstone Mayor James McPherson says he's glad to see the community welcomed in as part of the celebrations.
Well, actually, this is a continuation of what the Greenstone Gold and its predecessors, Premier Gold, had done 12 years ago, almost 15 years ago. At all the community open houses, we've seen the mine, we've seen people from the mine come explain to us what's going to happen, all the different stages of the process. We've been well informed along the way. Now it's time to celebrate.
Campbell adds that in the spirit of that ongoing partnership and communication, the mine will endeavor to keep the surrounding communities up to date with plans and next steps through the expected 15-year lifespan of the mine. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Meanwhile, the Geraldton District Hospital was the recipient of a $1.3 million donation following a fundraising bike ride by Equinox Gold leadership. The ride ended at the Greenstone mine site on Wednesday and marked the kickoff of the mine's grand opening celebrations. The riders were greeted by a large crowd of community members cheering. The journey started in Vancouver 3 weeks ago and raised the huge sum thanks to personal donations from Equinox Gold board members, as well as the company's other mines across North and South America. Hospital CEO Daryl Galesha says the $1.3 million will be put towards new hospital initiatives, such as a mental health room at the facility.
It's over 10% of our operating budget, which is obviously a large amount, and this is funds that we are not taking out of operating funds. Obviously, we don't have the funds to put towards these new initiatives, but to have that, to base these new initiatives off and the changes and the builds within our organization will change the direction of Geraldton District Hospital and really enforce what we want to do, closer to home.
I think our goal was to make sure that there was high quality healthcare in Geraldton for the mine and for the people here. And getting to hear how they want to use the donation and what their plans are for the hospital, I think is fantastic. And they talked about mental health and how that's become a real priority for the medical system here in Ontario, and that it's been something that the community has been looking for in their healthcare system here.
Dryden OPP are investigating a fatal collision on Highway 17 early Thursday morning involving a car and a transport truck. The crash occurred at around 2 a.m. on Highway 17, about halfway between Dryden and Vermilion Bay. The driver of the car, a 52-year-old man from Dryden, was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the transport was not hurt. The Trans-Canada was completely closed while the OPP Collision Reconstruction Unit investigated the cause. And there's no word yet on whether any charges might be laid. The highway reopened at around 11 o'clock Thursday morning. Greenstone OPP are investigating a fatal single-vehicle crash. It happened Thursday evening on Highway 11, approximately 80 kilometers east of Long Lac. Police say one passenger was pronounced dead at the scene and another passenger was taken to hospital by EMS with serious injuries. Highway 11 was closed for more than 10 hours and it reopened at around 5 o'clock Friday morning. The doctors serving the town of Rainy River are leaving en masse. MP Marcus Pulowski calls the situation a healthcare crisis, and the Rainy River mayor says she's very concerned. Still, she's also optimistic more doctors can be brought in to keep the ER open. Lee Noonan reports.
As of September 30th, the 3 remaining doctors at the Rainy River Health Center are all leaving the hospital. In response, Thunder Bay Rainy River MP Marcus Pulowski is calling for the reinstatement of a federal office of rural health. He says rural Canadians deserve better health care than they're getting. The Rainy River Physician Group announced they will be pulling out because their contract with the Ministry of Health mandates they provide 24-hour ER coverage, but, quote, under the current conditions, they are unable to continue to do that adequately and safely.
It doesn't matter where you live. If you don't have access to a hospital, it's a concern.
The announcement was made on social media and prompted outrage and fear from residents who worry about getting to the hospital in Fort Francis, an hour away, during an emergency.
They're not happy. They're scared. Like, we have a very senior population here too, and we have no public transit of any kind. To get ambulance to the First Nations, they're 50 kilometers north of us. So that's another, it's probably between 2 to 3 hours sometimes in the winter, depending on the roads.
Rainy River Mayor Deb Ewald estimates there are about 4,000 people who'd be directly affected by a hospital closure. That includes 4 other towns and 2 First Nations nearby. However, she's optimistic the hospital and the Ministry of Health will be able to find locum doctors to keep the ER open.
They're actively recruiting now, and it's just kind of a wait and see.
Both the ministry and Riverside Healthcare, which operates the hospital, stated that they are collaborating on a plan and making it a priority to keep the emergency department open 24 hours. None of the current doctors live in Rainy River, commuting in from southern Ontario, according to Ewald.
It wasn't a sustainable model. I'm surprised that they have actually kept it up as long as what they have, because it's basically, there's 4 doctors who come, and they each come 1 week a month, and they work both clinic and emergency and hospital 24 hours a day for 7 days.
The doctors have stated one of them will stay on at the clinic until the end of November, as there's a mandatory notice period, and they hope to negotiate a new contract that would allow the clinic to operate independently of the hospital. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
A historic $130 million settlement has been reached between Ottawa and a First Nation near Beardmore. The agreement addresses AZA's treaty reserve claim against the country, which sought reserve land under the treaty, as well as financial compensation for not having reserves since 1850. Jessica Clement has the details.
Nimbigo Zagagan Anishinabek will now be able to build on and potentially expand its reserve after a $130 million settlement was reached between the community and the federal government. The settlement addresses the First Nations Treaty Reserve claim, which recognizes the community's loss of land through dispossession. Back in 2008, AZA received 12.5 kilometers of land near Partridge Lake and just started building on it in the past few years. Chief Yvette Matansanine says members have worked for almost 40 years to get where they are today.
This means that our community can start healing and start the next journey as we move forward to our new reserve called the Lake Nipigon Reserve.
A celebration for the settlement was hosted on Saturday, which saw Matansanine and Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Haidu sign the agreement. Haidu says the announcement marks an important milestone for the members of Nimbigo Zagagan Anishinabek.
I've heard constituents that have told me about the stories of losing their land, losing their identity. I think we also heard that story of disbursement, people moving away from community and into all kinds of different other circumstances. This allows people to start to come back together.
Saturday's celebration also featured speeches from various community members, including youth Kyle Hainan. He spoke about what this settlement will mean for him and future generations.
The settlement makes me feel hopeful for the future. I plan to stay connected and contribute to our community. I got excited at the last community planning event, and I look forward to seeing future developments at the reserve. I'm happy that I will always have a place to call home.
Batansanine says the First Nations' next steps will be negotiating with Ontario regarding potential land within their traditional territory that will be made into reserve status.
We plan on identifying land within the Auden and Embabaka area, and of course, our Lake Nipigon, our new reserve called Lake Nipigon Reserve. We like to also extend the reserve boundary to make it a bigger reserve for the future generations to come.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
It's time now for a short break. When we come back, Thunder Bay City Council opposed trucking nuclear waste throughout the Northwest. Thunder Bay City Council is speaking up against the idea of a nuclear waste repository in the Northwest and the transportation of used nuclear fuel through the city. Council voted this week to take a stand and urge Canada's Nuclear Waste Management Organization to keep the used fuel closer to where it's generated. Lee Noonan reports.
More than 50 protesters and a couple of local political leaders showed up outside City Hall to voice their opposition to the disposal of nuclear fuel near Ignace and to urge City Council to join in their opposition.
They should be having consultation, real consultation with the communities along the highway before a site selection happens.
We're asking Council to urge the Nuclear Waste Management Organization to seek a solution whereby they can store this waste in secure storage near the reactors, where it is now stored and where it was produced.
Kristen Oliver, chair of the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, brought forward a motion to have administration review the city's dangerous goods route in light of the potential for nuclear waste being transported through the city. Anti-nuclear activists Charles Faust and Mary Veltri addressed council, asking them to take a stand against that possibility, and Councillor Andrew Folds put forward an amendment proposing just that.
If this is so safe, why are you trucking it or railing it across the country to store it in the middle of nowhere? It doesn't make sense to me.
The only reason why it's coming up north is because 100,000 people are not as loud as 10 million people in Southern Ontario. There's no other reason why it would come up this way.
I don't buy into the fact they're putting it here because we lack numbers. I do think they're putting it here because it is the heart of the Canadian Shield, which is extremely stable.
If nothing else, it's worth it to go out and to bring this up, so at least there can be a consideration of making the highway safer.
I believe it's going to be a positive impact, to be honest. Economically speaking, we're in the opioid crisis, we're in a poverty crisis.
The amendment passed in a close 7-5 vote, but the motion as a whole passed easily.
I'm actually elated. It was a long night, but we had a positive outcome. We hooted once we got into the elevator and the doors closed.
If the motion is ratified, the city will take a look at how dangerous goods move through Thunder Bay and write to the federal government and NWMO, urging them to consider managing nuclear waste closer to the reactors. In response, an NWMO spokesperson says they had, quote, been already considering this for more than a decade, adding that they will be choosing a site once they've received expressions of interest from all of the candidate communities. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Township staff in Nipigon have been looking into other potential sites for the $37 million visitor center for the National Marine Conservation Area. Mayor Suzanne Kuko says the township knew the original project at the Nipigon Marina could be canceled when historic Indigenous remains were found at the site back in May.
So our administration and council have been working proactively on some Plan Bs, right? Some sites for a Plan B. So we're moving forward with that, obviously, with the news from Parks Canada we received last week. So we are working on gathering that information for each of the properties that we think would be appropriate.
Excavation was underway at the marina site, but was halted after the remains were found. Initial reports estimated the remains were those of a First Nations man who would have lived before the 17th century. Parks Canada announced last Friday that the site is no longer a viable location for the National Marine Conservation Area building. Kuko says Parks Canada is currently working to put the property at the marina back the way it was.
I'm not sure what the process is for that. The township's not involved with that at this point. So they have to figure out, from what I'm told, that area of the property is now classified as sort of a cemetery area. And so that there's some processes that have to go along with that.
Parks Canada says the project timelines will be significantly delayed and the budget will also increase as a result of requiring a new location. The town of Red Rock celebrated the official opening of a $25 million project this week that has been in the works since 2010. Residents and local dignitaries had the chance to visit the town's brand new sewage treatment plant at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Jessica Clement reports.
The township of Red Rock now has a safer way to manage its water waste as the new water pollution control plant officially opened Tuesday afternoon. Residents and local dignitaries celebrated the grand opening with a ribbon-cutting ceremony.
Smile!
Located on Baker Road, the sewage treatment plant has already been in operation for about a year. Red Rock Mayor Darkise Robinson says the project has been in the works since 2010, so residents were thrilled when the plant finally got up and running.
With BMI and the old mill site, they're trying to attract industry to come here. So knowing that we have this plant that they could utilize and it doesn't put any pressure on the township, I think that's a huge bonus for us.
Robinson notes the completed project brings Red Rock one step closer to being delisted as a pollution hotspot by discharging cleaner effluent into the Big Lake. Ontario Clean Water Agency Regional Manager Patrick Albert says while the systems of both the old and the new treatment plants are similar, the newer one is bigger, allowing the facility to accommodate the town's potential growth.
In terms of the process and the lab in the plant is in great shape. It's nice to have a nice lab, all new lab equipment, so that the operators can optimize the process as much as possible. New UV systems, which help a great deal as well.
In total, the project cost $25 million, with the federal government contributing over $7.5 million and the province contributing over $17 million. Area MPPs Kevin Holland and Lise Bourgeois were also at the grand opening ceremony and had a chance to speak about the new facility.
The construction of this new water pollution control plant, which provides secondary and tertiary treatment of wastewater, replaces an aging facility that offered only primary level treatment. This upgrade is crucial in the ongoing efforts to protect and preserve the water quality of our Great Lakes.
It's wonderful that we were able to celebrate this here in Red Rock. It's a very important piece. I'm hoping that we're also able to carry that along the North Shore so that all communities, including Scriber in particular, which is struggling right now, are able to get this.
In addition to the new plant, the project also upgraded 2 lift stations and the SCADA system in the water treatment plant, allowing the 2 facilities to have compatible communication systems. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
A home in Martin Falls First Nation was completely destroyed by fire last weekend. According to NAPS, the house was completely engulfed in flames when their officers arrived at the scene at around 6:45 last Friday evening. Police confirmed with nearby witnesses that no one was inside. The home was completely lost to the fire and 3 vehicles close to the residence sustained damage. Police say the cause is unknown at this time and an investigation remains ongoing. A fire in the far north community of Fort Severn on Hudson Bay had left a multi-unit residence in ruins. Anishinaabe-Aski police officers responded to the structural fire at a sixplex at around 4 o'clock Wednesday morning. Fort Severn fire crews were also on scene, but they were unable to save the structure, which was completely destroyed. The building was evacuated successfully and no injuries were reported. NAPS say an investigation has begun into the cause of the fire. Meanwhile, there was also a fire in Sachigo Lake First Nation on Tuesday evening. No injuries were reported, but the home was destroyed. A 29-year-old man from Sachigo Lake has been charged with arson. It's time now for another short break, but stay tuned as a Geraldton woman wins more than $2 million. This month's Thunder Bay 50-50 jackpot was a whopping $2.2 million, and the winning ticket number was drawn on Friday and was purchased by a woman from Geraldton. Samantha Woods got the life-changing phone call from Hospital Foundation CEO Glenn Craig.
So we pulled our winning tickets moments ago.
Stop it.
And do you know how much the jackpot was?
Yes.
It was a little over $2.2 million.
No.
Yeah, it was actually $2,210,338 to be precise.
No.
Yes. And we drew Samantha Woods ticket.
Oh, you serious?
I am deadly serious. You are now a multi-millionaire.
No! Please! Oh, my God! No! Oh my God, sorry, I'm freaking out. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. If somebody called me and told me I was a multi-millionaire, I'd probably freak out too.
Owning 4 dogs, Woods bought the ticket because of the Dog Days of Summer theme, but never expected to win the jackpot. Woods says she plans to use the money to pay off the rest of her debt, invest, and help out her sisters. August jackpot means the Thunder Bay 50-50 has now awarded more than $45 million in total prize money across Ontario. Tickets are now on sale for next month, with the draw date on September 27th. Olympic silver medalist Abby Dent was celebrated in Kenora on Tuesday night. The city and the Kenora Rowing Club invited the community to commemorate Dent's success at the 2024 Paris Games. This video of the event was produced by Kenora's Kim Leduc. Abby Dent had a remarkable athletic rowing journey, starting her career as a member of the Kenora Rowing Club and the Manitoba Rowing Association. She later competed for Team Manitoba, earning bronze at the 2017 Canada Summer Games. It all led up to the 22-year-old competing for Canada at the Paris Olympics as part of the women's 8 crew, and the team managed to take home the silver. Dent brought her shiny medal to the celebration and shared it with friends, family, and the entire city. She also had a rowing boat named after her that'll stay with the club to remember the historic feat. Congratulations, Abby. And that's all for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. We'll be back again next week with more of the top stories from across the Northwest.